1,000 degrees with the Lavahot Podcast and host Joseph Connell Jr. You'll hear from ordinary people who are doing extraordinary things, from tech startup CEOs and marketing professionals to authors, investors, and sales trainers. This show will be packed with information to help you level up in life or business, taking you from on fire up to Lavahot.
Hello and welcome to the Lavahot Podcast. I'm your host, Joseph Connell. Today we are going to be talking Web3, and I'm going to be as transparent as possible when I say I have limited to no knowledge when it comes to Web3. Luckily for me, I've got a guest that his entire business career right now is centered around Web3. He's coming from a company that we all may be familiar with. It was a social media app that rolled out a few years ago called Parler. He is with them now. It is now named Parler Technologies. He's the blockchain business consultant, Mr. Jacob Mendez. Let me give you a little bit of background of Jake. He's an ex-Leo. For those who don't know, that's law enforcement, who has a passion in blockchain technology. He spent a few years educating himself on blockchain tech and expanding his network into some dedicated and motivated individuals and companies, and that's what led him into the Web3 space. After he left the force, he worked as an industrial mechanic for a year until he took an opportunity with Parler. At the time, it was just a social media app. Now it's more of a tech company as their Web3 blockchain tech, on their Web3 and blockchain tech team. He now works as a business and marketing consultant specifically to Web3. Jake, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here.
Good. Hey, so I want to start by really just trying to get an understand of what Web3 is. This show is dedicated to entrepreneurs, to local to mid-sized companies, sales representatives, individuals that have to market themselves. And when I hear that you're a business and marketing consultant specific to Web3, and I don't even have a solid understanding of what Web3 is, my hopes are to understand exactly what it is, how a business or a person can start marketing themselves through, I guess, this vehicle. But let's do that. I want you to dumb it down for me as much as you can. Just explain to me exactly what Web3 is.
Can do. So the vast majority of, I guess, the umbrella term of Web3, it really just means anything and everything relating to blockchain technology. Now, a lot of people, when they hear the word blockchain technology, their first reaction is cryptocurrency. I mean, Bitcoin, Shiba Inu, that Elon Musk was talking about for quite a while.
Right.
But it's really, and even NFTs, especially lately, have been a big thing in Web3. But it's really just all-encompassing, and those are just subcategories of the underlying technology that is blockchain technology. Mm-hmm. So Web3 itself is more referring to a lot of the more social aspect. It's usually used when people are referring to communities or experiences that they can have with blockchain technology. And again, that's through the NFTs themselves, through trading, buying, investing, leveraging of even NFTs, cryptocurrency. But Web3 is basically just a nice big umbrella term people use for anything relating to blockchain technology currently.
Gotcha. So like the metaverse, is that like something that would fall within that category of Web3?
Yep. Most definitely. Web3 has everything about it. A lot of the investors right now consider themselves early adopters. And that extends even to the metaverse aspect, just because it's so community oriented.
Right.
So the metaverse is kind of what people are seeing as the next step in your digital or online identity and how you interact with people. Okay.
So I want to know what got you into this industry. Was it just, over the years, obviously cryptocurrency has kind of evolved and it's become more mainstream, if you will. So I think, it peaked piqued curiosity in a lot of people. Is that kind of the same evolution for you, where you just became interested in that side of it and then it sort of evolved into NFTs and some of the other stuff?
Yeah, really. I've always been in and around technology. I mean, I was raised playing World of Warcraft. So online communities are something that have always interested me. Well, yeah, it's been very interesting to me. And even from a law enforcement perspective, at the time when I was working on the police department, everything is psychology, sociology, and human interaction. So seeing how NFT, well, cryptocurrency at the time was being talked about, the types of communities that were forming around it, it was intriguing to me. But at the time, I didn't know too much about it. I was looking more towards the stock market itself, doing investing there as a retail investor. And I kept hearing cryptocurrency and blockchain technology, and it was getting talked about more and more, and I saw it starting to build up traction, so I figured I'd start looking into it. Initially, I viewed it in a very negative light, because I was like, it's all fairy dust. Like, there's no
it's a
substance.
Fugazi.
Right. It's not like
Yeah.
I can hold a Bitcoin like I could hold a gold coin. It's
Right.
So that the concept was lost on me, but the fact that it was lost on me interested me and it intrigued me. So started doing more research into it, got connected to a few online forums through Reddit, Facebook groups, Telegram, and different social media apps. And just started to learn more. And the more I learned, the more it interested me, because I didn't look at it from a financial make a quick buck mentality. I was looking at it from the actual underlying technology and the already established use cases, as well as the theories, the ideation, different potential strategies. So I was looking at it from the technology aspect and what it could actually be used for outside of just people trading meme coin, cryptocurrency coins.
Right. Yeah. So now as you progress into this role as the business and marketing consultant over at Parliament Technologies, where are the opportunities right now? Let's just say on that side of it for companies that the type of companies that you work with. What ones would be the type that are trying to integrate blockchain technology into their business? And then how does the marketing aspect of that work?
So for companies and industries that want to utilize the technology, really right now with the stage that it's at, the really only limitation is your own imagination of how creative you can get with it. I mean, companies like Walmart and IBM have been using it since 2016 was when they first started looking into possible use cases, and they were using it for supply chain management at the time. There was just a banking, I can't remember which one it was right now, but there was a banking institute that basically registered a bank transaction through their bank and recorded it with the blockchain encryption that is one of the core features of blockchain technology. Another one was hospitality. Hospitality's been looking into how they can use NFTs for hotel reservations, timeshares, and even passes, so concert tickets, proof of attendance, coupons for merchandise. So really the limit is there really isn't any right now. It's just how creative people are going to get with it. From the marketing aspect, it's always very interesting when I'm talking to pre-existing companies that are looking at moving into the Web3 space, because they see the potential from the marketing aspect because of how dedicated and how community-oriented a lot of Web3 is. You can get a lot of very dedicated, motivated individuals, and some of the biggest Web3 projects and companies out there didn't spend a dime on marketing, just because given last year was a little bit different with the market, but everybody was so excited about the potential use cases that if there was a good idea out there and you got a couple people to notice, you had these online forums of tens of just small group messaging boards or group message chats to hundreds of thousands of people in these servers. And if you tell one person, they're going to go and tell their 10 friends to try to get people in early, get that just for the benefit of basically being early that some Web3 projects and companies provide their customer base or their user base.
Yeah.
So transitioning that to the marketing aspect for pre-existing companies, a lot of them struggled with the idea that Web3 in general does not like ads. They don't like billboards. They want to be able to go to a forum. They want to be able to go and talk to people that are actually working on advancing the technology, possible use cases. They want to talk to the artists, the musicians, the developers. So trying to transition pre-existing companies to understand that a lot of it is just the live interaction and the fact that your user base and the people that are watching what you're doing oftentimes are the ones that are going to be out there selling your project or your company or your idea for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I want to go back to one of the things that you were talking about where, a potential use case, if you will, would be a hotel. What would that pathway look like? Like how would they integrate blockchain technology, and how would an end user, let's say, book a hotel room? Like what does that transaction look like?
So any transaction that happens on a blockchain, especially on Ethereum and some of the bigger ones, utilize what's called a smart contract. So the easiest way that I can think of to describe a smart contract is, think of it like a legally binding document that you would have to sign, some have to be notarized, but it's a legally binding contract. The difference being that with blockchain technology and the way that they're built, the contract itself is actually a core program, a computer program that has the conditions, the enforcement, and execution all hard-coded into the same string of code that actually makes up the contract itself. Mm-hmm. So looking at it from the hospitality standpoint, in order to be able to, say, check into your room, they can turn that room, what would normally be a room key, think of it as if it was displayed digitally, which would be an NFT. That NFT, because you purchased it on their website and it was sent to your wallet address through the smart contract, you can gain access to that room with that key, that NFT. Now you can hard code into the contract that it has an expiration date, and at the end of that time, the NFT itself that acts as a room key would be transferred back to the hotel so that they still retain ownership. So basically like a smart rental agreement. So it's kind of what it comes down to. They're just loaning you that NFT for a set time period that is predetermined and then hard coded into the contract.
Okay. So do you, in your experience, do you feel that there's enough early adopters to, let's just say, cryptocurrency for this to be in good working practical use now?
I would say yes. Overall, the amount of active traders and wallets for blockchain technology, cryptocurrencies, NFTs, it's still relatively small in the current scheme of the world.
Sure.
But there is enough users and enough bigger companies that are actually looking at how they can use the technology that I don't think it's going to be going anywhere anytime soon. There's just too much money, there's too much time invested in it, and there's too much potential.
Yep.
And I mean, every day, one of the hardest things to do with Web3 and blockchain technology is, especially if you're kind of by yourself just learning, is trying to stay up to date on all the information, because every day there's some new integration, new use case, or there's some new big news story. I mean, one of the most recent was FTX, was a crypto company that's in a lot of hot water right now.
Yeah.
So trying to stay up to date on all of that. But I would say, yeah, there's enough people using it and there's enough liquidity and financing in it that it's definitely going to be growing a lot more, especially once the market itself, the underlying crypto market, starts turning around.
Yeah. So I guess with that, do you think that the type of companies that would have the most opportunity to start utilizing this, like you referenced hotel chains, you referenced Walmart, is it going to start there with these larger corporations that have maybe more scalability, more access points for customers, or would you say it would be too soon for, let's say, like a local to mid-sized company or a regional size company? Obviously, I know that you mentioned that there's, the limitations are based on your imagination of what you can do, I would imagine anybody could set this up. I have seen videos where even as small as a real estate transaction can happen on a one-off type of scenario. But for a business to invest time and energy and effort into, trying to be ahead of the curve, if you will, do you think that it is advantageous to start that process now for a local or regional size company? Or is this big picture in the type of companies that you tend to work with, is it more so the bigger type of corporations that have the most opportunity right now?
I would say it's the smaller individual that probably has the most potential with this technology right now. Even the large scale companies that are using it, really everyone's still starting on the same, they're all at the same starting line just because of how new the technology itself is. That's one of the reasons why I got into it as fervently as I did, was the fact that if you take the time and you invest the energy to learn it now, eventually what's going to end up happening, and has already started to happen, is these larger companies and corporations, they're not going to want to take the time to build out this technology and their own projects and companies themselves. They would rather just throw money at an individual person that is going to fast track the learning process, or buy out a pre-existing collection or company. One example is, I believe, Coca-Cola already has their own little project that they did, but a lot of these corporations are just doing it for kind of like the clout of owning it. So their name is attached to it, so therefore you're going to get it, but there's no real substance to it.
Right.
So that's where the smaller individuals and smaller startup companies really have an edge over those bigger corporations, is because they're actively learning and building in their smaller scales, but they're the ones that are making these advancements and finding new ways to implement this technology because they have been working with it for years already, whereas these bigger corporations are almost behind the curve on that aspect. So they have to find people that know the technology already to try to fast track that process.
Wow. So your role at Parliament Technologies, is that what you do? Is that like if a company is exploring, integrating blockchain technology into their business, is that what you do primarily? Just so I understand your role a little bit more.
Yeah, pretty much anybody. A lot of what I've done up to this point, Parler included, was just through recommendation and word of mouth. People knew that I knew a decent amount, and I just had connections that pointed out, hey, these people need help, so I'll go and help them. Mm-hmm. But a lot of it is just from my own time and energy that I've done as both an investor, as an educator, and I used to do, when I first started with NFTs, I focused heavily on basically like research and investigation into companies, projects, and creators and developers. So just trying to dig and find the dirt on them. So, I mean, I'm kind of a jack of all trades when it comes to the blockchain side of it, because I've kind of been in every position throughout what makes up Web3.
Gotcha. So if there is a company that is exploring, how do I integrate blockchain and Web3 into my business as like the next opportunity, would they have an opportunity to reach out to you at Parliament Technology to try to explore like how they could do that? Is that a service that you guys provide, I guess would be the best way to say it?
It's not a service that Parliament Technologies provides, but it's always a conversation I'm willing to have, just because to me there's nothing more exciting than being on the vanguard of something new. So if you have an idea and are interested on some feedback from someone that knows the space or has a network for you to utilize, I'm more than willing to start a conversation. Gotcha.
Okay. So what do you think some of the challenges are for a business? Like, what are some of the hurdles that they may come across as they start to explore? I know you referenced that there's constantly there's changes, so you have to try to stay up to date on those changes. Are there companies out there that help with this thing, that kind of fast track the whole deal for them?
Yeah, there are definitely some out there that help with that. There are companies that specialize in just hiring services, HR, financial, even the legal side for dealing with like SEC and the actual financial side and legalities behind it. There's a lot of companies out there. I mean, real estate. There are virtual real estate companies out there that buy and sell digital real estate in metaverses. So if you're trying to find people, the thing I always recommend to anybody, whether they work, own, or are part of a large company, really just get out there and start talking to people, because Web3 there are a lot of really big fish in a very small pond right now.
Yep.
So you really never know who you're going to meet or who knows who, because it's really all encompassing right now. There are celebrities, there are business owners, the average trader with $5 in a brokerage account up to a multi-billion-dollar company owner. So,
right. So let me ask this, and I want to kind of shift over to, the side that I think most people would be familiar with when it comes to blockchain, which would be cryptocurrency. Obviously, if you've watched the news, and I'm sure you have, but anybody listening, if they've watched the news, it's been, kind of a little bit of a dip and a roller coaster, which is not out of the normal for crypto. And it seems in the years that I've been familiar with it, it kind of has these really big highs and then these dips, and then, Lord knows that it ends up going higher than it ever was. What do you foresee the next 12 to 18 months looking like in terms of, let's go with the big one. We'll talk about Bitcoin. What you see that doing as we progress into a pending recession going the next 12 to 18 months. What do you think things are going to look like?
I think that, again, this isn't the first time that the crypto market has experienced something like this. When I had first gotten into it back in 2018, we saw another big market crash for crypto, where a lot of these cryptocurrencies lost 80+% of their value very, very quickly. And then going into 2021, all of a sudden you see record highs where Bitcoin was tens of thousands of dollars. So I believe that the underlying technology that makes up the blockchain and cryptocurrencies, I think that's going to be around for many, many years,
I agree.
Especially as people explore more use cases and potential strategies for it. The crypto market itself right now is definitely being put through the ringer, especially with this FTX exchange that's really causing ripples again. So the market's definitely going to be unsteady for I'd probably say the next 6 to 8 months. But I would expect probably 12 to 18 months, we could start seeing the market shift around again and everything kind of moving in the upward track. There's a lot of people that are still excited about it. The problem is everything is so new that as soon as there's any form of fear, it just exponentially grows because everything's so new. But I think part of what we're going to see with FTX is that there's going to be a lot more regulation coming in place. So the things that are like the scams, the fraud that really get people scared about putting money into this market, I think this FTX is going to create a lot of good case law and a lot of regulation to it, which it's kind of a double-edged sword. A lot of people in this space don't like the idea of centralized power or having governments stick their fingers in the pie, so to speak. But
as I understood it, that was the beauty part of blockchain and crypto, was that it wasn't centrally managed, if you will, for lack of better words. It was based on the users, correct? Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, that's been one of the main ideas and ideologies kind of pushing blockchain technology and the decentralized world up to this point. But I think after the last few incidences with crypto and some of these large scams that have been coming out, I think regulation is, I guess one way is almost like a necessary evil. It keeps it's something that can be used to hold people liable for the malicious actions that they're taking.
Yeah. One thing that I've seen, for anybody who's been living under a rock, this app called TikTok rolled out, and it created this platform for influencers to be able to brand themselves under a specific niche. Crypto seems to be one of the popular areas that people can kind of brand themselves under. And I could be wrong on this, but from what I had seen through a variety of different videos is that one thing that was common in the space is that they would create we'll call it a meme coin, but they would create some sort of coin. They would have a group of individuals that would basically pump up the value to their followers through influencing. They would pump it and then dump it and just roll out. Is that one of the type of, we'll say fraudulent or malicious intent type of individuals that you're referring to?
Yeah, that's definitely one tactic that's used more often, I think, than people realize. The ability for market manipulation with cryptocurrency it's used fairly often, and that's just for even cryptocurrency itself. There's been, and again, this is ongoing investigation, so nothing's been officially confirmed yet. But following the books for FTX, their finances on the backside seemed there's a lot that didn't add up financially with the record keeping. It makes it seem like there was a lot of market manipulation of their own cryptocurrency. And even for NFTs, it's the same thing. You'll have a group of highly liquid individuals who will see a project that has enough people talking about it that they can find value in buying a whole bunch to make a false volume of interest. And as people see the price go up, a lot of retail investors who are a little less familiar or comfortable with the space, they'll see just the volume numbers. They'll see those dollar points going up, and
right.
They'll just FOMO in and just buy what they can, and then the next thing you know, all these people that were pumping up that volume just dump everything that they hold and watch the price tank, and then they really just run off with what they robbed all of the mid to low level investors put in.
Right. Well, let me say this, because I didn't want to bring you on the show and only talk about some of the doom and gloom of cryptocurrency. I mean, obviously, when you look at something like Bitcoin, which has been around since like 2010, or is it before then? When did that start?
Well, it was 2009, 2010, right around
2009, 2010. Yes, yeah, so, I mean, you're 12, 13 years in at this point. I mean, that seems to be one where obviously that's the more, in my mind, it's the more mainstream coin that's out there. It's the one that people tend to pay attention to because of the value. What do you think needs to occur over the next 6 to 8 months and beyond to really get to a spot where people feel highly confident in it? Because here's what's interesting. If you look back 12, 15 years ago on e-commerce, I remember people saying, oh, don't put your credit card on the internet because, scammers are out there. Now we have our credit cards linked to apps and literally just hit buttons and our orders are in. Amazon would be probably the most prominent in that space where, we are more than happy to have our credit card there because of the convenience factor. I think there's an all-time high at this point for that's the phase of it. People start out as, they're skeptical, and there's some of these early adopters, and people will ridicule the ones that are using that technology for a period of time. They'll call them stupid or, you're crazy, don't do that. And then eventually you get down the line where the technology catches on and it becomes more mainstream. It hits that critical mass, and people are, I think the best example would be that. It would be e-commerce, where 10, 15 years ago, everybody was saying, oh, don't put your credit card online. And now it's nothing for us to just have it pre-stored and we're hitting a button or using Apple Pay or all the different technologies that are around us. So I believe that cryptocurrency is going to end up being the future of how everybody does business. I think it's a matter of time before that happens, which means That's why I like having guys like you on the show, because I'm very limited in the space. It's, I have like this, minor amount of knowledge when it comes to it, like maybe enough to like actually sound like I know something, but
Right.
not nearly enough to be, consider myself educated on it. But so I'll say that to say, like, what do you think needs to happen to get us to the spot where we get to that critical mass? We have, a large population of people that have maybe a restored faith in this technology, or just a general confidence in the technology.
I think one, given kind of the doom and gloom aspect, I think one of them is going to be regulation. In order to get more people interested, I think they're going to need to have something tangible, some form of proof that people can be protected, basically.
Right.
Another aspect of that comes with the education side. If you know nothing about Web3, NFTs, or cryptocurrency, and you want to, say, buy an NFT, there's a multi-step process, and it requires you to educate yourself on security and safety practices for your digital storage wallets. How do you get access to information? How do you verify and authenticate information? So shortening the learning curve for people so that it's easier and faster for them to get involved is going to be another big step. And I think another part of it's just going to be time, really, is going to be a big factor for it, because everything, again, is just so new, and there's always some new advancement or another industry or market that has potential blockchain users that are still kind of learning how they can integrate blockchain technology into what they do.
Right.
So I think getting more industries involved, which is already happening, is going to be another aspect.
Yeah. So I'm curious, are there any banks, like mainstream bank, like PNC, Bank of America, any of them that are utilizing blockchain technology?
So there was one that basically recorded the first bank transaction on a blockchain. I for the life of me, I cannot remember the name of it, but there is another one in Europe that is looking to integrate blockchain technology directly into their banking system.
Yeah, because I feel like that's where it would end up needing to be, because I feel like if it's somehow connected there to a source that people are already confident in, I think most people are, generally speaking, confident in the banking system. Because your funds are protected against fraud when it's in a bank. I feel like that would be like an easy stepping stone to get people to adapt to the technology if their bank started to roll it out as an alternative source for, bill paying and processing payments and maybe deposits of some sort. What's your thoughts on that? And again, very limited education here.
I think that's very true. If you had more, centralized banking systems involved, it would definitely bring people a level of confidence. The hard part with that is, from the banking side, there's a lot of liability that goes into being involved with cryptocurrency and blockchain technology right now, just because of how unregulated it is and how easy it is if you don't take the time to educate yourself, it's very easy to lose really everything you have invested. So it's a very massive liability for banking institutes to get involved in right now.
Very cool. So what do you see as being, as we get closer to the end of this episode, what do you think the listeners, as they walk away, what are some of the top highlights that they should be considering as we progress? Obviously, you mentioned that the next 6 to 8 months on the cryptocurrency side of things are probably going to be, a little bit hectic, but with hectic comes potentially some sort of regulations that might start to roll out there. But where do you see the bigger opportunities that people should start exploring as, we venture into 2023 and 2024 and beyond?
I would say the best opportunities right now are the first being education. So if you have very little to no knowledge about it, I would start pulling up news articles. I mean, crypto is big enough that it's talked about all over the globe. So there's information, there's articles that you can read. There is a lot of free content out there as well. There are paid courses that can give you licenses and certifications on blockchain technology. So I would focus heavily on just self-educating, try to get as much information taken in as possible. Mm-hmm. And the other side, I would say, try to get involved in a community, whether it's for an NFT or Wall Street Bets that focuses more on stocks. Definitely have a hand in crypto. But there are multiple platforms, groups, and just get in and start talking, because a lot of people that are in blockchain technology and cryptocurrency right now, they want to increase the mass adoption. Everybody wants to shorten the learning curve, because the more people that use it, the more value and the more that the really other industries and markets are going to want to learn how to use it. Right. So they want to help with that education. They want people to learn. They want to teach you. I love teaching people about blockchain technology. This podcast could be 3 weeks long and I never run out of stuff to talk about. So
right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So if you were to, I mentioned TikTok. It's a platform that I use, for entertainment and semi-education, if you will. I'll pop on there periodically. I'll come across somebody that's talking about cryptocurrency or blockchain technology, NFTs. Who would you say, maybe you don't even use that app, but who are some of the individuals that are out there? Because I think that there's a plethora of crypto influencers, if you will. Who would be some of the ones that you would say, hey, if you're really going to check out, YouTube or any platform to watch some videos, here's a couple of guys that I would say definitely go check out, because they tend to be right on the money and they tend to be on the up and up.
One actually that I've been watching a lot more recently, especially with this FTX stuff going on, is, let me pull him up here. His name is Mario Nawful. He's been doing a really good job of getting people on it, talking and really breaking down a lot of the bigger news outside of just the FTX stuff. I mean, I want to say they had Elon Musk even on one of theirs the other day, and then they also had somebody that worked on Enron when that was going on. They had one of the investigators and attorneys for that's looking into FTX was on talking about what's going on with FTX and the comparison to some of that stuff. So wow. He gets a lot of very knowledgeable people on to talk. So I'm pretty sure he does stuff almost all day. He'll have different streams going. So just stop in, give it a listen, and you'll definitely learn something.
Absolutely. So for, as we wrap up this episode, I always like to give each guest an opportunity to kind of showcase where people can connect with them. So anybody that's interested in, let's say blockchain, NFT, cryptocurrency, all things that are part of this Web3, where would you recommend people to go if they want to try to connect with you, maybe to learn a little bit more, try to figure out how they can integrate, Web3 as part of their business as they move forward into 2023 or beyond?
Probably the easiest would either be if you have a Discord account, or I also have a Parler account, Twitter account, YouTube account. With Web3, it's kind of all encompassing for all social media. So probably the easiest, pretty much on any platform that I'm on, I go by the same username. It's Guardian272. So on any of those platforms, you could reach out to that individual and I'll be responding. So
very cool. Yeah. So, and for those that are listening, if you go over to lavahotpodcast.com, you'll see that I'll have a profile completely built out for Mr. Mendez, for Jake, and you just search his name. It'll be listed under Jacob Mendez. If you do that search, you're going to see, this episode. You'll see the video. You'll see any short form clips that we have. But in addition to that, you'll see a full bio for him, and included with that bio would be a link to every one of the social media platforms that he mentioned. We'll make sure that we have that plugged in and integrated there. That way it'd just be very easy to click and go from there. But yeah, so Jacob, I just want to say I appreciate you coming on to the show. I actually got your name from a longtime friend. He's the head of marketing over there for Parler, Mr. Ron Poussin, individual that I have to have on to the show at some point. He's always been like a mentor to me in my marketing career. I worked with him or was recruited by him in a couple of different companies. He was a director at both of them, and stand-up guy who, I have a lot of value in recommendations. So when he said, hey, you got to have on Jacob, I was like, yeah, I'm down. So, but yeah, I just want to say I appreciate you taking the time and coming on the show, and we'll see what happens over the next 6 to 8 months. Maybe I have to reach out to you and say, hey, let's do another episode. Let's see where we are on, maybe some regulations, or maybe crypto's going bonkers at that point. Who knows?
Every day it's something new, so we could all be horrifically surprised or pleasantly surprised. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's been a pleasure.
Yes, sir. Jacob, I appreciate it.
You've been listening to the Lavahot Podcast with Joseph Connell Jr. Do you want to level up your business? Then visit us at golavahot.com for a free marketing analysis.